g'day everyone, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and welcome to another episode of Enjoy the Journey podcast. And we're very excited today as we have our good friend Sally here to talk about her amazing new book, How to Love the Shit Out of Life.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we should have bleeped that out.
No, we don't need to bleep it out.
And
It's
we
a
also
great
have
title.
another special guest with us today to fill in for Sam, one of our notorious leaders.
First time podcasting. Thanks for having me.
We've got Gary Grote, one of our lending specialists. So, Sally, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about Enjoy the Bleep Out of Life. How did this all come about?
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I've been a fairly positive person my whole life, and my background is in journalism, so I studied at Macleay College in Sydney for a few years. I've always loved writing, and I guess it was a way to match who I am as a person with what I think my best kind of attributes are in terms of the professional sense. And I had a number of friends just say to me, you should write a book, you've got all these really great tips and you're good at listening to people, you've got great advice, you should write a book. So, the short story is I listened to them, which some of them will, hopefully get some royalties off them. No. But I think I was kind of going through a bit of a phase that was, I was struggling a little bit. I was going through what I now kind of realize is a bit of an existential crisis about 5 years ago. And it kind of lasted for, I would say, nearly 2 years. But in that period, I started writing a bit of the book, and then I quit a job that I was working at for a little while that I was kind of struggling a bit with, the fact that it was such a dream job, but also I was struggling in terms of my well-being. And when I quit that job, I had a bit of a period off work. And in that period, I wrote a fair chunk of the book and realized that it was actually something that I wanted to pursue. So
Okay.
yeah.
So when did the whole journey start in terms of writing the book?
Yeah, that was about 2014. So this whole process now that the book is out, I've been going through some of the earlier versions of the book, which is really interesting. And yeah, I started probably about early 2014. So I guess you could say it's been a 4-year journey.
Wow.
Although some might say, I've been writing it my whole life. But if we're going to get technical, I would say about 4 years.
Beautiful.
So would your close friends consider you a type of life coach or therapist in some sense?
I mean, I don't think any of them have ever really said it in those terms.
Yep.
But I have had some friends, particularly now that the book is out, really express that you have helped me through certain periods of my life, and even friends that I didn't realize that I'd touched as much as I had have kind of reached out and just been like, yeah, you're always such a positive person, or even some of my colleagues that have said you're always smiling in the office and bringing a positive energy. And I guess, in your day-to-day life, you just don't really realize sometimes what you're doing or how you're affecting people. But I'd like to think that I've been a little bit of a life coach to some. But I mean, it's as much I've been a life coach to myself, and it's been like therapy to me as well.
You've just been able to have that effect and rub it off on other people as well.
Yeah. And I think it's important that if you notice that you are making a difference, you are helping others, that you continue to do that. You don't just kind of stop and go, I've done my work and I've helped one person. Like, if I'm here to make people's lives better and more positive, then I shouldn't just stop because, I don't know, I've written a book about it now.
Yep.
It continues on.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's one of those things, like, I know personally from writing my book that it's a way of solidifying your own beliefs and solidifying the way that you can have a meaningful impact on others. And it's a very difficult process. I think that the whole idea of writing a book, it's a bit of a metaphor for life. There's always obstacles that come up along the way, there's always challenges, and once you get to the end of it, the feeling of gratification that you have of just completing it, proving it to yourself is huge. So you've gone on this 4-year journey of trying to get this completed. You've said you've gone through a couple of versions. So what was the kind of sense of achievement, or how did you feel once you got to the end of it?
Yeah, when I finished writing what I believe to be the final kind of draft, I'm pretty sure I said, okay, I'm going to grab a drink and just sit down. And I think I went out into the kitchen, and I was living with one of my best friends at the time. And I think I just said, I finished it, it's done. He was like, finally, because I think I had bugged him with all my critiques and ramblings over the years. But I think it was more just, it was a sense of relief. And then I said to myself kind of internally, I don't want to look at that for a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of stepped back from it for, I would say, maybe a month or two, that I just didn't do anything. I didn't go back over it. I didn't, I didn't really talk about it much either.
Okay.
And then I kind of thought, okay, now what am I going to do with it? I've got to get it, professionally kind of edited and proofread and follow the process of how to get this, published. So pitching and working on that process. But yeah, it was relief, I think, more than anything. But since it's now in this formation and it's completely done and out there, the sense of pride and gratification, as you said, it's a really nice feeling, and I've just been trying to enjoy that the last few weeks.
How did you find that process of essentially finishing the book and then getting to the stage where it's now released, or very soon to be released, and getting it out to the public? Was that quite a stressful period, or? Yeah,
I think at times there was a little bit of that self-doubt that crept in, where and that self-doubt kind of kept popping up even while I was writing it.
Sure.
Of like, is this good enough? Will anyone enjoy this? Is it worth even pursuing? So then that process of, once it was finished, to then that pitching and finessing it, there were certainly moments where I just thought, after there was a few rejections, because I'd pitched it to, I think, half a dozen publishers in total before Brolga Publishing picked it up. There were a few, moments where I was like, is anyone going to pick this up? Or,
sure.
Should I just do it as a self-publishing kind of mechanism? But I'd had a few discussions with a couple of mentors or friends that I'd had in the writing kind of field, and the kind of old school, I say old school, it's not really old school, but I guess the traditional mechanism of getting a publishing deal and going through that way, just because now a lot of people are doing the self-publishing or they're doing digital kind of publishing, doesn't mean that it's not, worth pursuing. And I'm really glad that I did, because I think it helps sometimes having experts to help you, particularly when it's my first book. There's a lot that I don't know.
A lot of things to learn, right?
A lot of things to learn. So I think just having that security of, we know how to handle that. You don't have to worry about it. I thought, no, I want to push that. And I guess I was lucky in the end to get a deal. So
it's about persevering. It's a good lesson for anything in life, right?
Yeah.
That you're not going to get the first opportunity that you pitch for.
No.
And I think that it makes you respect the journey a lot more when you've gone up against that adversity.
Yeah.
Like, even for us in business, like every single day we have something that goes wrong. Sam's sick today, he's got stuff going on. And there's always something that you have to overcome, but it's about your ability to push on in spite of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how do we link that back to some of the themes in your book? Of course, seems to me that it's about having that positive outlook of being able to love your life, irrespective of what's going on.
Yeah.
So, talk us through some of the general themes.
Yeah. So one of the big ones is, I guess, how to turn negatives into positives. So I guess that comes back to the perseverance thing as well, because I think we all find that in life we're experiencing different challenges every day, and as you said, in business or personal lives, whatever it may be, and it's, I guess, trying to take something, whatever it is that you can grasp that is remotely positive, if it's not overly positive, from a bad situation, and then using that as a bit of a building block to, if you can keep feeling a bit more positive when something bad does happen, then eventually it won't feel so bad when the bad thing happens.
Sure.
One of the other key themes I would say is being nice, not only to other people, but yourself. So I've been on a little bit of a self-care, self-love journey the last few years, and a lot of that, is connected to the book. But I think we can all be really hard on ourselves, particularly when those bad things do happen. And I think it's really important that we express kindness and, are nice to other people, because then I think we get it in return generally. But also being, good to yourself and not being so hard on yourself. So I would say that's probably the one thing I've been trying to put out there to a lot of people, because I think we're all, we all like to criticize ourselves when we do something
Sure.
wrong, or we beat down on ourselves when something bad has happened. So that's probably one of the main ones.
It's pretty easy to get caught up in your own day-to-day life sometimes and forget about the big picture. How did you come up with the title?
Yeah, it's
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 a good title,
interesting.
I like it.
I love it.
I used to work. I was working about 6, I don't know, let's say at least 7 years ago with someone who is now a really good friend of mine, and her and I we used to listen to a lot of Triple J. We used to go to a lot of festivals, and we always had this like really positive energy when we talk about music that we like together. And I'm fairly certain she may have said the term first, although she may have not, and maybe I did, and I'm giving her too much credit. But it just kind of started this thing of like, oh, I just love the shit out of that, and I kind of just kept using it, and it was it's just a really accurate description of how I felt about a lot of things. So when I started writing it, I think it was going to be loving the shit out of life, and then it was like maybe more of a how-to manual, and that's where the title came. So there's not too much swearing in the book. I don't want everyone to think that it's just profanity laced throughout, but I think it's a pretty catchy title.
Look, I think it is. And
Swearing's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
I think I don't want to give any more heat to a certain title of book that's done phenomenally over the last year or so.
Yes.
But follows a very similar theme.
Yeah.
But look, I think it's important because from my perspective, and particularly for our generation, it's very taboo for us to talk about our problems. With social media and people in general, everyone always wants to show their best side. It's always about looking perfect and the sense of achievement once you've reached the destination, and kind of highlighting the outcomes that everyone has created in their lives superficially, but no one takes the time to respect the journey or respect the struggle. And I think it's really important that we create a platform where people can feel safe to talk about their adversity and utilise tools like this and other people's experience to amplify and heighten themselves to get to where they need to go.
Definitely.
So where does your inspiration for this come from? It seems like you've had a bit of life experience and this has got you to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been really blessed to have been surrounded by really good people my whole life. I have a wonderful family. I have wonderful friends. I was one of the lucky and I think rare people that I loved high school. I mean, there were parts of growing up and puberty and that phase that were really awkward and hard, but I had a wonderful experience at high school, which I know is not the same for everyone. And I think I've just managed to find, I like to say the term good eggs. So I've found a few good eggs in my life that I've kind of latched onto, and they're not allowed to go anywhere because they're so inspiring to me, and they're just wonderful people to be around. So I think that's probably something I would suggest to other people, is that if you are kind of struggling with a few things, or you're noticing there's certain negativities that are festering in your life, I think a good place to start is to look at who you are surrounded by and what kind of energy they're projecting onto you, because chances are if you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, that's going to seep into how you behave and how you think and feel. So I would say that it's more of as much as it is a how-to or a self-help book, it's also a bit of an ode to those people that have come into my life and made a really positive impact. So I'd like to put a lot of congratulations their way as well, because they've really helped this process. And if I didn't have that kind of support network, I don't know if I would have written the book, or it might not have been the same kind of book as it is. Yeah.
And what are you hoping now that the book's finally out there? Because obviously it's been a really long ride to go through that process of writing the book, finishing the book, taking a bit of a break, getting it published, and then obviously getting it printed and released. What are you, now that it is released, what are you hoping to achieve off the back of it?
I'd love to do some motivational speaking around it. The dream is to one day do a TED Talk. But yeah, I'd love to just take it out and create a bit of a movement with it. And hopefully that means other books as well. So I'm already thinking about, how can I make this a bit of a series? So obviously this is maybe a bit more of a general kind of, it's life, so it's quite a broad bubble, but are there little niche elements of life, you know, work, relationships, you know, whatever it is that I can then have little inclinations as part of that. And yeah, perhaps some, you know, life coaching, I guess, or that moving into that sphere where I guess I make it a bit more of a career as opposed to just a way of life.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's a fantastic start. I think writing a book gives you that sense of credibility where you can put yourself out into the world and position yourself however you want because you've got this now to leverage. So how does it feel now that it is on the shelf? So it's in Dymocks and major bookstores?
Yeah.
Wow.
Online retailers as well, like
fantastic.
Booktopia and Angus and Robertson. So yeah, I haven't actually seen it in store yet. I'm hoping to go on a little mission maybe this afternoon.
Just go exploring.
This weekend and, you know, just over the next week, find it and pull it to the front of, you know, the rack just so that it's right there. It feels really cool. I've had a few people already, you know, tell me they've ordered some of the pre-orders online. It's really exciting. So I'm just really trying to enjoy the moment. I don't want to be in say 5-10 years time and I forget this kind of moment because it's so important to really enjoy something, and it is a big achievement. So definitely. I think, you know, I don't want to forget about this, and I want to make sure that it's, you know, I'm really in the moment and enjoying it for what it is.
And look, you've spoken about the people who have supported you through the experience. Were there any naysayers?
Ooh.
We don't want to name and shame.
No, we won't name and shame.
Look, there have been a couple of people, I guess, that when I've spoken to them about the book and I guess the whole concept around being positive and this kind of zest for life, I guess there were a few people that did say, you know, you can't just have this fluffy, you know, book that everything is like rainbows and unicorns and there's no real elements to it. But I would say that I would agree with them. And there are a few chapters in the book that do focus on, you know, emotions, and, you know, there's one even about crying, because I find this whole idea that people can't cry, like, that really pains me. So there is a bit of dealing with that kind of, not the negative side, but the harder side of life. So I didn't want to make it this fluff piece that isn't real.
Yeah.
So I would say there were a few people that, you know, when they heard me speaking about the book, they probably thought, oh wow, she's just, you know, she's living in a bit of a bubble, but I'm not. And look, even a friend of mine recently said that he would buy the book. He probably wouldn't read it, but he would buy it to support me because it's not up his alley. I think he reads a lot of science fiction and horror and whatnot. So obviously that's very different.
He'll be the one that secretly reads it.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, maybe I can convert him to the happy side.
I think the thing I really like about these types of books is that they are therapeutic. They can be polarizing, but those are the people who need it the most, in my opinion. Back on your previous point, like, I think there is that stigma around people not crying, particularly men. But I
cry all the time.
That's good.
That's cute.
It is. I'm a softie.
I think that for most people, there's just that stigma of keeping face.
Yeah.
But it is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
And there are situations where that sense of release that you get from having those endorphins and being able to overcome adversity in those really tough situations. So what are some other strategies that you go through in the book that people can take away? Obviously, most of our audience are business people, entrepreneurs. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I think a lot of those people sometimes lack these practical skills because they don't have the time.
Yeah, I would say I was chatting with a friend about this recently, and a friend who is quite busy, does, you know, a number of different projects and works full time and has children. And you know, I said to her, it's really important that you take time to rest. So there's a whole chapter dedicated to resting, but also sleeping, which includes naps. So it's all very much about...
That would be a highlight for you.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I do sometimes feel quite overwhelmed with all the different things I have going on. And, you know, I'm sure you guys, being in a very competitive kind of business space, you know, making sure that you take time to rest. And when I say that, doesn't mean you have to go take a 2-hour nap or you have to have like a 10 hours sleep at night. That's fine. You don't, you know, if you can do that, that's great. But it can just be like taking half an hour just to, you know, sit on the couch and just kind of breathe and just chill, or just read a book for half an hour to an hour. So I would say in this kind of busy day and age, and also with social media being so prevalent and something that we all use, you know, so frequently, it's really important to rest, because I think when we rest in whatever shape or form that is, our body is more relaxed, our mind is more relaxed, and then we can open our mind, you know, and I guess our heart to a degree, to kind of be more happy and take in those really fun, light moments and really enjoy them. So that's probably one of the key ones I would say that applies to anyone, regardless of what industry you work in or, you know, how busy, you know, that word just, oh, it's so
busy.
Yeah, I say it all the time, and I'm like, am I really busy, or am I just saying that because it's a good way to get out of something? But I think everyone's busy,
100%.
so yeah, I think we might want to put that word to
I agree.
can a little.
I think some people almost create a busy lifestyle for themselves, and they actually don't really have. I think they kind of create this own little chaos bubble that they're kind of stuck in, and it can be hard for them to get out of that sometimes.
Yes,
I agree. I was listening to a motivational speaker a couple of months ago, and they said, take the word busy from your vocabulary, because in this day and age we've created this complexity in our lives to distract us from actual life, the real stuff. And it's about trying to use the word productive instead of busy, because just because you're busy doesn't mean you're getting anything done.
Exactly.
And I've tried to pull myself up on it whenever I go home and my girlfriend asks me, how's your day? Busy? Oh, no, productive. Productive.
I like that.
But we're in this habit. I think life's about that. We've got to break some of these habits and sometimes go against the grain on some of these things.
Yeah.
So talk to me about these various iterations of the book. So let's talk about version 1. Did you write it the whole way through as a first draft, or did you do it in pieces? How did you approach the project?
The first inclination, which was very scattered, I would say, I didn't even realize, I guess, that I was writing chapters. It kind of felt like a very long blog entry or, you know, not diary, but journaling of just all these ideas. And I started, I cannot remember the first chapter I wrote. It might have been, there's one about clowns get sad too, you know. So I actually started on a kind of negative front and then thought, okay, how do I kind of work around that? And then eventually, I think it was during that period that I'd really focused on writing it when I was off work for a small period of time, that I then started structuring it a little bit more. So putting kind of the different chapters or what I was working on in an order that seemed to flow quite well. But there certainly wasn't like a third or fourth draft or fifth. It kind of all blended in together.
Just kind of got shaped around until you got the finished
product.
Yeah,
and then one day it was like, okay, I think I'm on the tail end, so let's get this done.
I'm curious, when you had that time off work where you really got stuck into the book, how much did you get done within that time frame versus when you did go back to work and you were, you know, you were busy and life got in the way and all those other bits and pieces?
Yeah, I think I wrote a good maybe quarter of it because I had all that time on my hands. So in between reading a lot of books and watching a lot of TED Talks and sitting in my track pants and catching up with friends and doing all that fun stuff, it was the main thing I was working on, and obviously looking for a job at the time. But then I did find it was a little bit hard when I started working full time again to, you know, how do I set aside some time? And I got into a little bit of a routine of setting aside time every week and then weekend to write a bit. But I did also find that got a little bit stale after a while, just because writing can be such a fluid and it's such a creative, it can be really intimate as well, and it's not something that you can just sometimes sit down and go, right, I'm going to write something for an hour.
You can't really just turn it on and hope that the words are going to be there.
You know, there were times when I would kind of force myself, and then I'd just look at it and think, oh, that's not what I was hoping to write, or that doesn't sound very good. So I think in the end it got to this point of, you know, if I woke up at 2 a.m. and had a thought, I would just write at 2 a.m. Or if I got home from work and I had this motivation, because on the train I would be thinking of all these ideas, or I'd read a really great positive article or be listening to a great podcast and then have that motivation to write. So in the end, I think I let it kind of just take its course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were you more of a traditional pen and paper, or was it laptop, or?
Yeah, it was more laptop, which kind
Okay.
of makes me a little bit sad because I do love pen and paper.
Tactile.
But I did make sure there were a lot of printouts, just not so great for the environment, but going through and kind of sketching and writing and editing with the pen and paper.
Yep.
So it was a little bit of a mix, but I actually recently went on a writing retreat. So I went to Italy. I was on an overseas trip in about April, May, and part of it was a week-long writers retreat. And I was amazed that most of the people did write pen and paper, and it encouraged me to do the same because I thought I don't want to bring my laptop to the other side of the world. And it was nice just seeing people, I guess, a bit old school. So yeah.
Kind of take it back a bit and deconstruct it.
Yes.
So what was the biggest lesson that you've learned authoring your first book?
There's been a lot of, I guess, mini lessons, but I think the main thing I have learnt and what I would tell anyone who is considering writing a book would be that you have to trust your instincts, and that self-doubt that keeps creeping in. It's going to keep popping in, but essentially it was so far kind of into the process that when that self-doubt was starting to really bug me, I just kind of said to myself, you're doing it, so must be a reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I would say that it was those moments where I just trusted my judgment to keep moving forward with it. That it's the reason why it was able to get to this place. So I would say that was the biggest lesson.
I think that's really important. I was watching a talk from, I think it was Bill Gates, and someone asked him, do you get that self-doubt? And he said, I get it every single day, and I will have it for every single day for the rest of my life. The voice in my head tells me that I'm a fraud, that I'm not worth it, that that basically I'm pretending, and my ability to be this successful has been my ability to push on in spite of it. And I think for many people that only comes with life experience. Like there's so many times when you give up just before you've seen kind of the light through the trees,
about to finish.
and it's our undoing. But I think that we've got to realise that our mindset is a muscle. That we can't expect, like going to the gym. The first time you go to the gym, go pick up the barbell with 100 kilos on it, you're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to pick it up. It's the same thing with this kind of thing, and I think this is the most valuable lesson from doing this, is that you're the only one that's been responsible for getting this done.
Yeah, definitely.
And it sets a precedent for you moving forwards, which is pretty cool, right?
Yes, very
There might hopefully be more books along the way.
Yes, that is the hope. And I'm already starting to think, this kind of last half of the year, let's just research, get some ideas on the pen and paper, and see where we can move it forward.
Beautiful.
For someone who's going to pick up the book and buy it, what would be the most important part of the book in your view that you'd like them to absorb from it?
Yeah, I talk a lot about simplicity. So obviously the bigger moments that happen in our lives, whether it's getting married, having children, releasing a book, buying a house, going overseas, those things are huge and they're so important and so wonderful, and we get so excited by them, and rightfully so. But I am also someone that gets excited by, a day like today where it is sunny, it is blue sky, it's beautiful. I love the sound of a beer can cracking open. I love Labrador puppies and, really cute dogs, and walking past a cute, dog and its owner, in a park. All those kind of simple things, even the sound of my niece's laughter, or the kind of the kids in my life. I've got a number of friends that have children. They bring so much joy to me in the little things that they do. I think it's those smaller moments that are just as important as the bigger moments. And if we start, anyone who picks up this book and reads through it, I think they will get that theme throughout it, and how important it is to celebrate those moments just as the bigger moments, because essentially those big moments, there's a reason why they're so big. It's because they don't happen all that often. We're not buying a house every week of the year. No. We wouldn't be able to do that. But we, hopefully we have some nice sunny days for most of the week, and that's something to put a smile on your face. So I think the more we celebrate those smaller things, the happier that we'll be.
I agree. I think these days all of our achievements are so huge. Like I think there's like this culture of the big, hairy, audacious goals, right? And everyone's in pursuit of this massive achievement. And we work so hard in pursuit of it, but we just don't take the time to enjoy the finer things. The things that are there every day, we take them for granted. And unless you're happy in your everyday, those big things are never going to make you happy anyway.
No.
You're going to achieve it, and it's going to fall short of your expectations. Because you're constantly looking for that next thing.
Yeah. And when you get there, it almost seems like a relief. You're not even proud of the achievement anymore. You're just like, oh, thank God, I got there.
Yeah, that's so true.
I think that's really valuable. I think as a race these days, we need to be, and as mankind, we need to be willing to just enjoy our everyday. It's not all about money and the constant pursuit of money. We talk about this a lot. A lot of our clients are constantly pursuing revenue goals and income goals and all of these things. And when we start talking to them about the other stuff, well, what's actually the lifestyle that you want to achieve? Or what are you really working towards? When it boils down to it, it's about freedom. And I guess that most people never get there. It's that constant pursuit of financial freedom to be able to pursue other things they want to do. But it's the constant hustle in the meantime to get
and
there.
I think that's connected to, writing a book. I've had several people say, oh, how many copies do you want to sell? And it's like, oh, I don't know. If I sell a handful and it impacts those people in a good way, then I guess my work is done. So I think if you are setting out to do something creative, whether it's make a film or write a book or whatever it is, your end goal shouldn't be profit, because I think you're going to find you'll probably fail at whatever that crazy expectation is. I think there needs to be a genuine want to put something special out into the world.
I couldn't agree more. I think the blind pursuit of money, you'll always fall short. Because you can only pursue money for so long, and money's it's not really worth anything. It's just a way to buy things that you want, but it's not going to buy you happiness.
No.
As a consequence of that. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Sally? I guess you mentioned that you potentially want to do some life coaching, do some speaking.
Yeah.
So what's going to be the next 12 months for you?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, hopefully planning and doing a bit of research this last kind of 6 or 5 months of the year, just for potential books down the line. I've got a Facebook page that's the same name as the book, as well as an Instagram, and I have a blog, again, the same name. So I really want to start to focus on that a lot more, producing some good content for that. I would also love to do a podcast. So I think it's a great, it's a great segue into a podcast. So hopefully I can get that in the works.
Podcasts are the same name.
Yeah. I think it could just be topics each week.
And that brand.
Yeah, I think just really using what is a great title to create, I guess, a bit of a movement or some kind of family of people that just engage on being positive and how different people do that. So yeah, that's probably the next 12 months for me, and hopefully if through that some opportunities to do some mentoring or some speaking engagements, I would be all for that. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Well, I'm sure our audience would love to hear more from you and get some more of your valuable insights. So if you had to give some kind of simple tips and words of wisdom from your experience, from everything that we've got in the book, from everything that you've gone through, what would be some kind of some tips that you'd like to give to listeners?
Dot points.
Yeah,
I would say, going back to what I spoke about before, be nice to others and yourself. Show compassion to others and yourself. Embrace the simple things as much as the bigger things. Love and like things and people. There's a whole chapter about liking stuff, because I think we talk a lot about love. You actually have to like things as well, which maybe not as deep, but it's important. And just having fun. Life can be really serious, and I think if there's something right in front of you that's funny, or that's something that's going to push you to laugh and enjoy it, then you should just take it by the hands and really embrace it. And hugs. hugs, I would say hug as much as you can.
Gary loves a good
Obviously,
hug.
if someone doesn't want to hug, you should probably ask them first. But I'm all about a good embrace. So
I hug everybody in the office except for Sal. Sal doesn't like hugs.
Sal doesn't like
He
hugs.
hugged me just before.
He doesn't like hugs from Gary.
Yeah.
I see.
Jackson does though.
I don't mind a good hug from Gary.
Yeah.
From me.
It's important.
Look, I think that's really valuable. I think more people need to focus on this stuff, and there's too much negativity in this world.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think it's really driven by the media's agenda, because they know fear sells
Yes.
advertising. And we really need to get onto this bandwagon of talking more about how we like and love things, love ourselves, and actually enjoy life. There's too much stress. There's too much tension in this world. We need to be doing more to alleviate that. So I think you're doing a fantastic job to get more of this stuff out into the world. So for those of you who want to get a copy of Sally's book, How to Love the Shit Out of Life, available now online and in all your biggest bookstores. We will be providing all of the details for Sally's content. So of course, if you want to subscribe, the best way to follow is to jump onto the blog, follow your social media,
Facebook,
and
Instagram,
it'd be fantastic that if you've got any content, please share it in our community. I'm sure that the community would really love it.
Wonderful.
It's all about having that positivity in your life. So,
Beautiful.
Sally, we really appreciate you making the time, and I'd be keen to have you back on over the next few months to kind of continue to follow the journey and see what you're able to achieve.
Thank you,
We'll be
guys.
back in 12 months and see if the second book's on the way.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know.
We'll be back for you, Sally.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Well, thanks everyone. This is another episode of Enjoy the Journey podcast, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.